Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing all right out there and staying safe. More importantly, there is some pretty active weather ongoing right now. Nothing too crazy. We have some strong storms out there in Oklahoma, and they will begin to develop in Texas. And just a lot of heavy rain and stormy conditions overnight for a large portion of the country. And we'll talk about that right in the beginning of this video. But I would say about 80% of this video is going to go to talking about the severe weather outbreak potential for tomorrow. So there's a lot to talk about. We'll try to get as detailed as possible. Of course, if you guys got any questions, definitely shoot in the comments and I'll try to answer them as quick as possible. Normally I answer all the comments, and really early in the mornings, I'm talking 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I'll go over all the comments from the video from the previous evening, but we'll definitely go over all of it. But we're going to try to figure this out for you guys, and then we'll do it one last time tomorrow morning before things really get very active tomorrow afternoon into the overnight hours. So I want to say this really quick. There's about, I believe there was 3 people who sent me super thanks. 2 of them sent me a huge super thanks. And I just want to tell you guys, when y'all do that, it means the absolute world. Not just for the growth of this channel, but it does a lot for me and my family also. You know, I'm trying to get to the point where I can really throw a lot of, you might as well say, a lot of money back into this setup to make it better for you guys. But there's a lot of other things before I even think about doing that. That's why, you know, the setup has been pretty much the same just in my bedroom for the last pretty much over a year now. There really hasn't been any substantial upgrades besides upgrading my computer about a year and some change ago. So, you know, thank y'all for riding along with the journey. And, you know, I know a lot of people are saying, don't worry about it, Mitch. We love your approach here. And that means a lot to me. It really does. But there is a lot of things that I want to work towards. But I'm trusting the process. And more importantly, I'm trusting God with everything. And I've definitely developed more patience with that over the last, I would say, several months. I would say if I go back 1 year from now, I was certainly a little bit more impatient. But now I'm just realizing that this is a process. We're going to get to where we need to get with this channel. And I just want to say thank y'all for the awesome family atmosphere we have here. And I just appreciate every single one of you guys, especially when, you know, y'all support me and all the ways that you support me with. So thank you for that. That being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can do that. I can pray over it and others can do so too. I know a lot of people suffer from storm anxiety. I get it, trust me. So certainly praying for everybody with that. But let's look at watches, warnings, advisories, things like that. We got severe thunderstorm watches out there right now with some severe thunderstorm warnings. But, you know, we're not going to talk about what the storms look like right now, because by the time this video uploads, it'll be a totally different situation. There's a lot of great people on YouTube to go live. Ryan Hall's pretty much the household name now. He does an excellent job. And there's a lot of other great people who do it too. Definitely stay tuned with them, especially, you know, if you're under these severe thunderstorm watches and things like that. But you got flood watches up also, and these extend all the way from eastern Oklahoma all the way to a few counties in southwest Pennsylvania. These areas are going to see a lot of rain over the next, I would say, 48 hours. And check this out, winter storm watch is up for northern Michigan, and we'll talk about that at the tail end of this video too. Don't want to leave my folks up there hanging. Got a lot of people who view from up in this portion of the country, and I really appreciate all you. I'm going to give you an update right at the very end. I got you. But water vapor loop, this is really starting to take shape now. There is an incredible boundary setting up over this region right into here. Let's see if I can do this on the fly. It's right around here. There's a boundary where you basically got very warm temperatures in this area, very cool or cold temperatures up in this area. So that's really helping to be a factor in setting the stage for severe weather, but you got plenty of moisture. And the thing is why you have a flooding risk is because this is a slow moving boundary. So with a boundary, it's kind of like a road, like an avenue for all this moisture to go. So it's kind of like a very slow moving, southeast progressing cold front. And I mean, if it's slow moving, I mean, the moisture is just going to keep going. Surface lows are going to keep popping off of it. And in this case, one is going to pop off and it's going to deepen and it's going to move in this general direction and going to create an atmosphere that supports some significant severe weather for areas of the deep south tomorrow. And this is the boundary I'm talking about. This is temperatures right about right now or about 30 minutes ago. I mean, it's, you look at, and I talked about this morning, you look at Missouri. you're in the 70s in southern and southeast Missouri. But once you get up to about Columbia, Missouri points north, you're in the 40s. This is a crazy boundary. For example, my folks in Indianapolis are in the 40s right now. You go down to like Evansville, Indiana, it's well into the 70s. And then once you get, much further south, 70s, 80s widespread. You go north of this boundary. For example, if you're riding an interstate or a road and you go and you're looking at your car reading showing your temperature, and you're like, dang, did you just see that? It just dropped from like 70 to 45 degrees. Your eyes aren't deceiving you. You walk outside at one gas station, it's warm. You stop at another gas station an hour up the road and it's cold. That's how it is right now across this area of the country. Pretty wild. But the same area that's having that crazy temperature boundary is going to be kind of the same area that sees a lot of rain between now and tomorrow morning. And this is right about right now. You got some strong storms, severe storms in Oklahoma right now. This will continue to become more widespread as we get into this evening. 10 p.m., you got storms from near Wichita Falls. We got to watch out for a tornado threat later this evening in that area, all the way to West Virginia. And this will continue just to ride over these same areas. And you're thinking, well, Mitch, why isn't just going more so southeast? Well, it's just because there's a stall boundary and all the moisture is taking this route. Now, if you notice, it is inching south. If you look at it, if I go from here to here, you notice there's a little bit of a southerly kind of component to it. So that tells us the boundary is sagging south. But between now and tomorrow morning, a lot of rain, and not just rain, but storms and heavy rain, basically from eastern Oklahoma all the way to southern Pennsylvania. As far south as northern Kentucky, as far north as maybe the Ohio Valley, central areas of the Ohio Valley. So a lot of rain could fall, and rain between now and about tomorrow morning around 7 a.m., anywhere an inch to 3 inches of rain is possible, especially if you just, you're here in Missouri or southern Illinois or Indiana, and you get hit by a storm over and over again. You could pick up a lot of rain pretty quick. So just be aware of that tonight. It can be a sneaky flooding risk, and a lot of people will be asleep when this is developing, and that's why you have a moderate risk of flash flooding occurring. That is at least a 40% chance of flash flood guidance being met in this area right here, and you got the 15% risk in the yellow. But please be careful. And just please, if you get a flood warning or something, just, certainly be aware of what's going on, especially if you live in an area, low-lying area that, easily floods. So let's talk about what most people clicked on this video for, and that is the severe weather threat for tomorrow. Right now, there's a moderate risk for severe weather for tomorrow. That is a level 4 out of 5, and that is in the red. There's an enhanced risk for a very large area that extends from a very small section of eastern Texas all the way up to a part of southwest Kentucky. This does include an area of southeast areas of Missouri. This does include basically the entire western half of Tennessee. Almost includes Nashville. Does include Memphis. Okay, so this is a big deal. Let's look at the tornado risk. Not a whole lot's changed from this morning's video, but of course we'll go over everything. There's been some tweaks, but nothing that's really notable to talk about or anything like that. You still got in the red a 15% risk of a tornado. In the yellow, you have a 10% risk of a tornado. Also in the 15% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. Never not want to say that. You also have a 10% risk of a strong tornado, EF2 or higher. Same thing in the 10% risk. 10% risk of a tornado, but also a 10% risk of a stronger tornado. That's EF2 or higher. And don't just totally ignore the brown area either, or the green area, the 5 and 2% chance. Okay, wind threat. This is what we got to watch for. A little bit further north, there's going to be a big-time damaging wind threat. There's a 30% risk of damaging winds in this entire area, basically the entire enhanced region. This includes Memphis, Jackson, Shreveport, all the way to Alexandria. Not quite all the way to Baton Rouge, but there will be a threat down there too. But I really think the northern sections, I would watch out western Tennessee, Memphis area, Jonesboro, Arkansas kind of area. I think that the storm structure will be more linear, which means I think you'll have a line of storms in this area, and they could bow out, which means damaging winds will be elevated to be high. So in the Hatch region, you also have a 10% risk of significant strong winds, which is 65 knots or higher, which is 70 to 75 mile per hour. Think of that as you just got a 10% chance of hurricane force winds, which is 74 miles per hour or higher. So this is a big deal with this. Hail threat, well, I mean, you got a 15% risk of hail, but with any supercells that get going, pretty much with almost any supercell, you're probably getting some kind of hail in what we call the hail core, which is the northerly flank of the storm most of the time from the actual rotation on the southwest quadrant most of the time. So that's the risk tomorrow. Let's talk about the ingredients, okay? And I know a lot of people just say, hey, Mitch, just show me what the radar could look like tomorrow. Tell me if there's going to be a tornado in my backyard. I wish it was that easy. I mentioned that, hey, we could, make a lot of money doing that. We'd save a lot of lives, more importantly, right? But we try to do the best we can do. Dew points will start off tomorrow morning. You're already waking up basically from Texas, Louisiana, all the way to Alabama, all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, all the way up to Arkansas. You're waking up and you're going to walk outside and you're going to be like, dang it, it's humid outside. And it will be. Dew points in the mid to upper 60s. That's a humid air mass. All right, so you're making it to about midday Friday, about 1 p.m. really. And, the moisture does nothing but build, especially in Louisiana. In fact, you are going to have some low 70 dew points in Louisiana. And even getting into western areas of Mississippi. And there's things we look at if you're a new viewer and haven't been listening. You haven't, watched a video talking about the dynamics, which I'm sure other people explain it. But dew points is one. You get dew points in the 60s. That's an ingredient supportive of severe weather. That's that surface moisture. Okay. And that's what we're looking at. We'll look at the next thing here in a second. This is what you call a thermodynamic. Okay. Higher surface moisture. And you got a stout moist sector, a rich moist sector into this area. When you start to get dew points in the low 60s with all the other ingredients sitting there, that's kind of scary, okay? So plenty of moisture down here. Next thing you look at is temperatures, okay? Look how warm the temperatures are going to get in the warmest part of the day. This isn't one of those classic March kind of severe weather events in the deep south where it's like in the upper 60s, low 70s. You start the day off with a lot of, you're probably going to have some fog. A lot of times with these severe weather days, you start the day off with a lot of fog, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. That will be the case. I don't know about the fog part. We'll see. But it's going to be a day where there's going to be a massive amount of instability that builds in the atmosphere. The atmosphere will destabilize, and you'll notice the clouds will break. And when they do in Mississippi, for example, where the storms will come later in the evening, later in the afternoon and evening, temperatures will get well into the low 80s. Okay, it'd be very, very warm day in the Carolinas and Georgia tomorrow. Somebody might get into the upper 80s, but the surface temperature, surface heating is going to be, substantial. It's going to be there. All right. Next thing you look at here is the Cape in response to the atmosphere destabilizing. Okay. And the dew points, which are rising well into the 60s and 70s. Normally a direct response to that is some big-time instability in the atmosphere. Cape, high Cape, which is the available potential in the atmosphere for storms to feed off of. So we'll look at MU Cape here, most unstable Cape, and it builds into the area. Already about mid to late afternoon, you got Cape values reaching over 1,500 joules per kilogram. Okay, even if you just had Cape values reaching like in the upper 100s to around 1,000, that would be plenty of juice to the atmosphere. Okay, this builds into the region, and not good. We're getting into Friday evening at this point, and there is a ton of fuel in the atmosphere in response to this big-time surface heating and a lot of surface moisture into this area. So the atmosphere is ripe as far as fuel to the atmosphere, just ready to be tapped into. Okay, next thing you look at, and this is huge in this setup, is kinematics. Okay, kinematics is the wind energy in the atmosphere, the low-level jet. And here comes our low pressure right into here somewhere. In response to a deepening low pressure, you have a strengthening, what we call low-level jet. And that's winds about 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet up in the atmosphere. And, we're getting into, at this point, about 7, 8, 9 p.m., and you got a low-level jet raging. It's already was strengthening over areas of southern Arkansas and northern Louisiana, all of Arkansas. Well, I would say the southern half of Arkansas, all of Louisiana. And it really intensifies into western areas of Mississippi, where it starts to reach about 60 to 70 knots. The Storm Prediction Center says It's going to be anywhere from 50 to a 70 knot low-level jet firing off here. So even if you're not seeing storms ahead of these lines, it'll be very windy, just like it is with any kind of day where you're about to see severe weather. So big-time low-level jet, high-end kinematics. You add this to the thermodynamics at play here, this is going to be a big day for severe weather. So that's all the ingredients. You ask, how can these storms evolve? All right, so we'll start it off around 7 a.m. Central Time tomorrow. And for you guys up in Kentucky and areas of the Ohio Valley wondering, what about us? I'm going to show you. I promise, I got you. This is how this could develop. You're probably going to have kind of a weakening, I would say, broken line of storms moving through Arkansas tomorrow morning. This will probably move through areas and make it all the way into Kentucky, western sections of Tennessee. But then we have to see, and there's a couple sections to watch. One is this section, which is the high-end tornado threat, and this is the big-time damaging wind threat. So how much does the atmosphere recover up here from the morning convection? You're not really going to have any morning convection down here, but up here you will. Okay? Do you have a clearing? Not literally a clearing in the sky. I doubt you'll have clear skies, but do you have a full clearing of moisture up here? If you do, this is going to provide a lot of fuel to these storms. And we stop it right here. It's around 5 p.m. Here come the storms, and they're developing quickly. Main line developing right here again, reinitializing here. And you have to watch this area right around the Mississippi Delta here. That's about to fire off some supercells here. And here we go. They're starting to form right around Jackson. This entire area, you need to be careful. They start to fire up here. And then these are the storms I worry about the most. Around 7 p.m., these storms start to develop in front of the main line. This area right here is highly unstable with a strengthening low-level jets. Any storms that form ahead of this line will be rotating. It's just, do they latch to the ground and form what we know as a tornado? These will have a chance to produce tornadoes too. You will have embedded spin-ups in this line. Okay, but this is a nasty squall line forming up here that will probably develop and blast through Memphis sometime in the late evening hours tomorrow. But look at these storms and basically the entire central section from north to south in Mississippi forming. This is not a good look. Look at the little kidney bean looks here, all these. Okay, we got to just, man, we got to hope for is the fail mode. The fail mode is that we do not get discrete storms. Kind of like what the HRRR model says. It shows a few storms that look very dangerous. But this line of storms behind it is dangerous too. These will produce damaging winds. And here he goes. You got this line of storms blasting over the Mississippi River around 9-10 p.m. These start to take over the western half of Tennessee, basically in the late evening hours. And then these storms can be quite intense, around 11 p.m., midnight in the northern half of Mississippi. And then we'll blast through northern Alabama, Nashville, sometime around midnight or just after. And they could still be producing damaging winds and a tornado threat. But the tornado threat will certainly lessen. But the damaging wind threat will continue overnight. And we keep this going, and this starts to knock on the door of the Cumberland Plateau probably an hour or two after midnight, I would say. Chattanooga, be careful. These start to kind of drift into the Birmingham area, probably in the wee hours of the morning. Knocks on the door of North Georgia, probably in the wee hours of the morning. Atlanta, 5-6 a.m. These storms move through, but they will start to really lose their punch after this. Okay? My folks up here a little bit further north, same kind of deal. You're going to wake up to a lot of heavy rain in Kentucky. Probably some severe weather potential, but we have to watch what forms after this. And as we're getting into about 8-9 p.m., watch out Paducah. Watch out, all of Kentucky. This is going to be some very heavy rain. This could be some damaging winds with this. This is around 11 p.m., midnight. These could be some embedded sections in this line of storms that could produce a damaging winds, maybe even a quick spin up, okay? But this, once you start to get, I would say, into southern Indiana, you're going to have gusty winds, no doubt, but I definitely think this is more so just a heavier rain, maybe some gusty winds kind of threat. But once you start to get, I would say, into areas of, Kentucky, southern Kentucky, and Tennessee, then that's when you can have some damaging winds into the overnight hours, and this blast through could be a rocky wee hours of the morning event for the southern Appalachian Mountains, for sure. It really could. Talking about, just a couple of impacts that could potentially happen. These are winds, associated with the storms. It's not the best thing to look at, but it tells you that, hey, there's some embedded areas of 60, 70, 80 mile per hour winds in some of these cells. You see, it's going to be impossible to figure out exactly who gets damaging winds, but we do have a good idea that, in these storms right into here, they could produce 60 as much as 80 mile per hour winds. And I mean, these winds will be packing a punch all the way through Huntsville, Alabama, the southern areas of the Cumberland Plateau. Okay, so it gets quite gusty overnight in the entire state of Alabama. So you got to be careful of that. And we back it up, and we certainly need to look at this, the significant tornado parameter. Remember, these values, just because you see huge numbers over your area, that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get a tornado. Just here it comes. Watch how the significant tornado parameter really spikes into this area right into here. You get some pretty high values reaching, all the way up to 10, okay, on the significant tornado parameter area. So just, think of this as, hey, there's the atmosphere is prime for tornadoes. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen in your specific backyard, but the atmosphere is prime for tornadic activity, okay? So please be careful. You got to mention the flooding threat tomorrow too. There's a moderate risk for even a bigger area tomorrow for flooding. Okay, so you got basically extending from northern portions of Arkansas all the way up into areas of Ohio, a 40% chance to see flash flood guidance being met in this moderate risk. And, speaking of the rain between now pretty much and through the entire weekend coming up, some areas will get up to 5 inches of rain, I think. Well, I'm just talking about maybe sections of Missouri, southern Illinois, and Indiana, maybe even some areas in northern Kentucky could really get a lot of rain. This is going to cause flooding issues. I think that'll become a storyline that isn't talked about as much due to the fact of all the severe weather, but please don't ignore this. Let's talk a little bit about snow. The same system is going to bring a snowstorm for areas of the country. We'll start it right here. It's around 5 a.m., 4 a.m., Saturday morning. Snow begins to break out potentially over eastern areas of Iowa, maybe even northern sections of Illinois. I think this could be a heavy, wet snowstorm for areas like Milwaukee again. Chicago, this looks like mainly rain for you guys, but I think this will be a big snowstorm also. I say big, but big for late March standards for northern areas of Michigan. And this swings through, and not to ignore you folks. And then, I'm sorry, speaking a little bit too soon, but this pretty much wraps up Sunday morning. It's a quick hitter. And not to ignore you folks in the Northeast, because I haven't really showed you guys much love from this system. But, in the interior Northeast, starting Saturday afternoon, you guys could see some winter weather in the interior sections, the higher elevations of New York State. The southern tier will see mostly rain of New York State, but Vermont, New Hampshire, this could be a quick hitting winter weather event. And then it gets into Maine, where there has, the potential for a few inches of snow is possible into this region. Then this heads on out. How much snow can we expect in Wisconsin and surrounding regions? National Weather Service going for maybe as much as 4 to 6 inches of snow in Milwaukee. Green Bay, a few inches of snow. Southern sections of Wisconsin, just anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow. Northern Illinois, same kind of deal. 1, 3, maybe 4 inches of snow in these areas. You go into Michigan. This is where someone could sneak and get 10 inches of heavy wet snow. But going for around 6 to 9 inches of snow in northern Michigan. UP and Michigan could get a good bit, especially the eastern sections of it. And then we switch and, move back to the Northeast. How much snow could you guys get? Really looks like it's going to be another big hitter for northern Maine, where you guys could see several inches of snow. Vermont, New Hampshire, maybe a couple inches, but not a big event or anything by any means for you guys. But, some late season snow will add up in some of these higher elevations. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Stay safe. I have you one last big update in the morning, and then, it's showtime. So y'all stay safe out there. Talk to you in the morning.